Okay, 7.3 day 2, we're going to multiply rational expressions. Before we do, I'm going to remind you of how we factor difference of cubes and sum of cubes. So remember, if you have a cubed minus b cubed, to factor it, it ends up turns into a binomial times a trinomial. The first one has the a minus the b, and then it's a squared plus ab plus b squared. So if I were factoring x cubed minus 125, I see that x is cubed. To get 125, that's actually 5 cubed. So my first parenthesis is going to be the x minus the 5. In the second parenthesis, it's the first thing squared, so the x squared. There's a plus sign. The middle term is this times this, or this times this, so that's 5x. And then the last term is the second thing squared, so b squared is 25. Okay, and then just to check, I would do x times x squared. That's definitely x to the third. Negative 5 times positive 25 is definitely negative 125. I didn't check the middle terms, and you can, but if I at least got the first and last correct, there's a good chance I'm doing it correct. Okay, for sum of cubes, a cubed plus b cubed, it's very similar to the previous one, but there's an a plus b here. If there's a plus here, there's a minus here. There's always only one minus sign. So, this should be end of the third. End of the third plus 27. What is 27? 3 to the third. So my first parenthesis is n plus 3. Okay, my trinomial. Since the first thing is n, I'm going to put n squared minus n times 3, 3n. And then the last term is 3 times 3 is 9. Or some people go, okay, this is a 27. 3 times something gives me 27. And that's how I factor the sum of cubes. Okay, now we're going to multiply the rational expressions by factoring and simplifying. So we're going to actually do just like we did when we simplified rational expressions, extended. Now there's going to be more than one. Okay, so since there's two fractions, I'm just going to start with the first one. Okay, the numerator has x to the third. I'm going to leave that x to the third because it's already a monomial. Between the 6x and the 24, they have a common factor of 6. So 6 times x is 6x, 6 times 4 is 24. Okay, now there's a second fraction, so I'm going to go ahead and bring that over. Okay, at the top, I have x plus 4. There's no common factor because there's no number here. There's no squared, so I'm actually just going to leave it x plus 4. At the denominator, I have an x, which is fine. Okay, just like with simplifying rational expressions, if there's a common factor on the top and bottom, they can be canceled out. They have to be identical, and they have to be top to bottom, but they can be on either fraction. So in this case, this x plus 4 can cancel with this x plus 4. So they're gone. Okay, let me see what's left. Okay, now I have a 6 at the bottom and an x at the bottom, and I have x to the third at the bottom. Since I have x's at the top and the bottom, it means there can be more simplified out. Okay, there are more x's at the top. I have x to the third at the top. If I cancel an x out of the top, this goes down to x to the second. Or because I did 3 minus 1 and I got 2. The only other thing left at the bottom is this 6, so I'm going to put a 6 at the bottom. If it does not ask me to state my domain or excluded values, so I'm going to just write the answer. So my simplified answer is x to the second over 6. Okay, I'm going to do the same on the next one. If you start working ahead, it's fine. This is the main idea of it. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first fraction. On the first fraction, the numerator is x to the 7th. I'll just leave it x to the 7th. Okay, on the bottom, I have 2x plus 2. 2 and x, they both have a 2. So let's make this 2 times x, 2 times 1. Now let's go to the next fraction. I have an x plus 1. There's no number here to factor out. There's no squared. So I'm going to leave it the way it is. Okay, and the denominator is 5x to the third. There's no plus or minus, so let me just go ahead and leave that alone. Okay, no, does anything cancel? The x plus 1 top, bottom cancels. Okay, now it looks like it can also cancel some x's. So let's look at the x's. I have x to the 7th at the top. I have x to the third at the bottom. There are more x's at the top. So I'm going to leave my answer at the top. If I do 7 minus 3, I end up with x to the 4th at the top. Or you can say, oh, if I cancel out x to the third, these go away. If I cancel out x to the third, I'm left with x to the fourth. Now what's left? On the bottom, what do I still have? I still have the 2 and the 5. Since this is multiplication, I'm going to do 2 times 5, and now I end up with a 10 in my denominator. And that's my simplified answer. Okay, I'm going to keep going. You can still work ahead if you would like. Okay, let's see. Okay, first fraction. The 2x to the second is already a monomial, so I think I'll leave it alone. On this one, I have x squared minus 16. There's no common factor because this doesn't have a number and this doesn't have an x. But it does have a squared, which means it's probably going to factor. Since it's x squared minus 16, it's going to be xx. To get 16 plus 4 minus 4. It's a difference of squares. Okay, let me bring over the next fraction. On the top, I have x minus 4. There's no number. There's no squared, so I'm going to leave it alone. And the 3x to the 9th is a monomial, so I'll leave that alone. Top to bottom. Cancel, cancel. Is anything else? Okay, the x's are going to cancel. So I have x to the second at the top and x to the 9th at the bottom. Okay, so let me figure out the x's first. I have x to the second at the top, x to the 9th at the bottom. There are more x's on the bottom, so I'm going to leave my x's on the bottom. If I do 9 minus 2, I get 7. So actually the 7th is left at the bottom. Or you could say, I'm going to cancel out x squared. Cancel it. If I cancel out x squared out of this, I'm left with x to the 7th. Okay, now there was a bunch of other stuff left, so I need to bring that all over. On the top, I still have this 2. So let me put a 2 on the top. On the bottom, I still have an x plus 4. What else? I also have that 3, so I'm going to put the 3 in the front. So everything left over is going to go into my final answer. And again, it didn't ask me to state domain, so I'm not going to. You could, though. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Okay, first fraction. 5x and 10, I can take out a 5. 5 times x, 5 times 2, x to the 11th. Let's leave it as a monomial. Second fraction. 6x to the 4th, monomial. X minus 2 doesn't have a square, doesn't have a coefficient, so we'll leave it. Okay, canceling. X minus 2, x minus 2. Okay, what else? I have x to the 4th and x to the 11th. So we can also simplify those. Okay, what is it? There's more at the bottom. So the x's are going to end up at the bottom. Okay, if I cancel out x to the 4th, this is gone. If I cancel out x to the 4th, then it goes down to x to the 7th. Now everything that's left over still needs to be here. So what's left? On the top, I still have the 5 and I have the 6. Since they're both on top, it's 5 times 6, and I'm going to end up with a 30 at the top. Okay, and then that's my simplified answer. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, first fraction, x squared minus 10x plus 24. Oh, that's definitely going to factor. X times x. To get 24, I could do 2 and 12, but that doesn't add up to 10. 3 and 8, no. 4 and 6, yes, 4 times 6 is 24. To make it add up to minus 10, minus. On the denominator, I have x squared and 6x. They both have an x. X. So put an x on the outside. X times x is x squared. X times 6 is 6x. Okay, next fraction. The top just has a 1. That's fine. The bottom has an x minus 4, which has no coefficient that's not 1, and no squared. Okay, what do we cancel? The x minus 4 with the x minus 4, and the x minus 6 with the x minus 6. So we are left with a 1 in the numerator and an x in the denominator. Okay, let's do F. First fraction. I have x squared and 7x. They both have an x, so I'm going to put an x on the outside. X times x, x times 7. Okay, denominator, 2x and 14. I can take out a 2. 2 times x, 2 times 7. Okay, let's look at the next fraction. 1 over, I'm just going to leave that 8x to the 5th. It's already a monomial. Okay, what cancels? top, bottom. Anything else? Oh, sure, I have an x here, and I have an x to the 5th here, so I can cancel an x out. Okay, so now let me consider my answer. Okay, now if I cancel an x out, this x goes away. If I cancel an x out, this goes down to x to the 4th. Okay, now let me figure out everything else. What else is left at the top? I canceled out the x. All I have left at the top is a 1. Okay, on the bottom, what do I have left? I have the 2 and the 8. So 2 times 8 is going to be 16, x to the 4th. Okay, G, it does look a little funny, but let's start with the first one because that looks okay. So the first fraction, 5x plus 10, I can take out the 5. So 5 times x, 5 times 2. X minus 2 is going to stay x minus 2. Now for the second fraction, it's not actually a fraction, so we are going to make it a fraction. I can always put a 1 at the bottom, so let's put a 1 at the bottom, just so we can keep track of what's the top and the bottom. If I factor x squared minus 4, I'm going to have x plus 2, x minus 2. Okay, let's see what cancels. We can only cancel top to bottom. So x plus 2's are both at the top. The x minus 2 is on the top and the bottom. Is that it? I think that's it. Okay, so on the top, I still have a 5. And then I have an x plus 2 and an x plus 2. You can write x plus 2, or sometimes we'll say, oh, it's x plus 2 squared, just because we don't want to write it twice. At the bottom, we have a 1, and that's all we have. So we don't have to write the 1 at the bottom. We can leave it like this. But if you want to write the 1 at the bottom, that's fine too. Let's try the next one. Okay, first fraction, there's a 1 on the top, fine with that. If I do x squared minus 4, there's no common factor, but it's going to be x plus 2, x minus 2 times. Okay, I'm going to put a 1 at the bottom, so I keep track of my numerator and my denominator. Okay, so I put a 1 here. What is that? X squared 9x 14, it's got to be 7 and 2, huh? 7, 2, and since it was positive 9, it's all positives. Okay, what cancels? X plus 2, x plus 2. That's all, huh? Okay. So then I'm left with an x plus 7 at the top and an x minus 2 at the bottom. And that's my final answer. Okay, first fraction, x squared minus 6x plus 5. To get 5, that's got to be 5 and 1, huh? 5 times 1, since it adds up to minus 6, minus. Okay, the denominator, 3x squared and 15x. I can take out a 3. I can also take out an x. You should take out as much as possible. Okay, if I take out 3x, then it's 3x times x, 3x times 5. Okay, second fraction, 3x, that's a monomial. X minus 1, I can already see it's going to cancel. So what cancels? X minus 1, top, bottom. X minus 5, top, bottom. 3x, top, bottom. So everything canceled. When everything cancels, what's our answer? It's 1. If you have 5 over 5, you get 1. So if you divide something by itself, we end up with 1. Everything cancels, we get 1. Okay, I'm going to keep going, mostly because I know I'm not in class. Okay, what are we going to do? X squared, x times x. To get 12, I could do 4 and 3. That's not going to give me 4. 6 and 2. Oh, 6 and 2 can work. 6 times 2. To get negative 4, negative 6 plus 2. Okay, common factor, 2x squared and 12x. 2 and x. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 6 is 12x. Okay, now on the top I have x plus 3 squared, which looks weird. But I'm just going to write it out twice because it's kind of factored for me. So the work's done for me. I'm just going to write it out so I can see what's canceling. Okay, what about the denominator? X squared 5x plus 6x times x. To get 6, 3 times 2 adds up to 5 plus plus. Okay, we can cancel 1 with 1, 1 with 1, 1 with 1. Do we get everything? Okay, so on the numerator, I'm left with the x plus 3. Denominator, I'm left with 2x. And you can leave the x plus 3 in parentheses, it's just that you don't have to. Okay, a couple more. Okay, what are we gonna do here? Uh-oh. 5x squared plus 6x plus 1. There's no common factor, so I'm gonna have to factor it. Oh shoot, this one's gonna be harder to factor because of that 5. Okay, let me guess and check. 5x times x. To get 5x squared, to get 1, it's gotta be 1 times 1, right? Plus. Okay, you need to make sure it's right. Some of you split the middle term or grouped. I'm gonna just check this. This is gonna be 5x squared plus 5x plus 1x plus 1. Does that add up to 6x? It does add up to 6x. So this is gonna be 5x plus 1, x plus 1. And it's okay if you check in your head, but you do need to check it because otherwise you're just randomly guessing. Okay, 10 and 2. I can't take out 10, but I can take out 2. They both divide by 2. If I do that, that's 2 times 5x is 10x. 2 times 1 is 2. And that actually looks better because I can already see something canceling. Okay, second fraction. The 1's fine. X squared minus 1 is x plus 1, x minus 1. Okay, let's see what we got. Cancel. Cancel. So we're left with the 1 at the top. We have that little 2 at the bottom. And we also have an x minus 1 at the bottom. Okay, 2 more. Okay, first fraction. There's an x plus 2 at the top, which looks fine. Let's leave that alone. Okay, now at the bottom, I have x to the third minus 27, and there's not a common factor. Okay, but there's a cube. So what is this? This is x to the third. This is 3 to the third. So I know the first parenthesis is x minus 3. The second parenthesis is going to be a trinomial. Okay. X squared goes in the first thing. Plus sign, because I already used the minus sign. If I do x times 3, I get 3x. And then to get that 27 at the end, I need a 9. Okay, now let's look at the next part. I'm going to put this over 1, just to keep track of my denominator. Okay, now if I try to factor this, what is that? To get 9, 3 times 3, but 3 plus 3 is 6. 9 times 1 is 9, but 9 plus 1 is 10. That's not going to work. So I actually cannot factor it, but that's okay because if I stare at it, I can see that it's going to cancel. So I feel good about it. Okay, so even though it's big, this whole thing will cancel with this whole thing. So what am I left with? I have x plus 2 at the top, and I have x minus 3 left on the bottom. And that's still a much better answer than the beginning. Okay, last one. Okay, x cubed plus 8. There's no common factor, but this is cubed, so this must be 2 to the third. So x plus 2. Okay, so that's, since the first term is x, this is x squared. Since the first term's plus, this is minus. If I do x times 2, I get 2x plus, and this has got to make an 8, so this is 2 times 4. Okay, let's look at the bottom, 3x and 6. I can take out a 3. Okay, what about this second fraction? I have a 1, and I have a, okay, I can't do much with that. Okay, so what can I get rid of? I can get rid of this. Not much, but something. Okay, so I'm left with the x squared minus 2x plus 4 at the top, and you can leave that in parentheses or not. It doesn't make a difference since it's all alone. On the bottom, I have the 3 and the 5x squared. Since they're both at the bottom and I'm multiplying, I will multiply those together. 3 times 5 is 15x to the second.